If you clicked on this video, you probably have a burning desire deep down to create something, whether it's an exciting idea or interesting characters you want to bring to life, or an ambitious project like a manga or a game, or perhaps you simply want to get good at drawing. But oddly enough, when it's time to actually sit down and work on it, you always find yourself getting distracted, putting it off till tomorrow, or abandoning things halfway through. And days, months, or even years go by and you still haven't gotten around to making the thing. You feel stuck because, for some reason, you keep helplessly losing to your lazy side. If that's you, don't worry, you're not alone. Because for many years, that person was me too. And even though I've now managed to reach a level where I can work with various companies and won awards, I also started off as that person who was creative and ambitious, but never got anything done. For example, during high school, I got addicted to manga, and through reading the School Rumble and Bakuman series, I realized for the first time that being a manga artist was an actual job, and I quickly decided that that's what I wanted to do. In my mind, I thought of all these exciting stories and characters I wanted to draw, but when the time came to actually put pencil to paper, I'd somehow find a way to never get things done. Like, I'd start drawing something or work on a manga story, but then stop partway, thinking it's not good enough. Other times, I'd get bored of it and come up with a better idea and start something new and then repeat the cycle again. And then there were the times life got busy or I was feeling stressed, and instead of drawing and working on my art goals, which I knew was really important to me, I'd somehow just end up playing games or binge watching some anime. It literally took me years of endlessly repeating this before I was finally able to figure out how to break free of the cycle and get to where I am today. And I don't want you to have to spend that long trying to figure it out yourself. Instead, you can just watch this video and save yourself years, as I'll be breaking down exactly why artists like you and me end up feeling lazy even though we really want to create, and the 5 things you can do to rewire your brain so you can finally break free and achieve your art goals. By the way, if you're new here, hey, I'm Ori. I'm an illustrator, and on this channel, I make videos exploring how we can level up both our art and ourselves. So what's actually going on when we know we're creative and ambitious, but for some reason never feel like drawing? Basically, it comes down to how our brains have evolved to motivate us to do actions that would increase our chances of survival. For example, back when we were hunter-gatherers, we may have spotted a place with lots of food inside a forest, but if it was also home to a pack of wolves, our brains did not want to motivate us to go there, as the danger would not have been worth the reward. And if for some reason someone was motivated, they'd quickly find themselves out of the gene pool. Although this was a winning strategy for the hunter-gatherer meta, it's a losing one in the current day and age, because most of the actions we take don't have life or death consequences. But because our brain still treats it like so, it will motivate us away from doing anything that feels threatening or painful in order to keep us safe. Now, working on an ambitious art project isn't going to endanger you physically, but there is still the pain of stress, possibly failing, making something imperfect or bad, and being judged by others, all of which your brain does treat as real pain. And so, it'll naturally not want to motivate you to do it. This is why, even if you have goals in art that are important to you, you end up procrastinating, abandoning things halfway through, and constantly starting new things without ever finishing things till the end, because it keeps you safe from the pain you might feel. So, what can we do about this? Though we can't change the fundamental way our brain works, we can understand how it calculates the motivation we feel when doing something. Current research suggests that the brain uses a formula along the lines of motivation equals reward minus pain times success rate. Let's take a look at each part in more detail. Reward is what will you get from doing it. This is the dream goal you want to achieve, like creating that exciting idea you have, or becoming a great artist. The higher the reward, the more motivated you'll be to do it. Next, pain is what is the cost of doing it? These are things like giving up your nights and weekends to work on your goal or project. It can also be having to sit through discomfort, uncertainty, and putting in lots of effort. The higher the pain, the less motivated you'll be. Lastly, success rate is simply how likely are you to succeed in doing it. If you think you have a high success rate, you'll feel more motivated, and if you think it's low, you'll be less motivated. So, in the earlier example about the forest with lots of food but home to a pack of wolves, it was lots of food meant high reward, but because of the pack of wolves, it also meant very high pain and a low success rate, which thus leads to low motivation. Similarly, ambitious creative goals also tend to have problems in every part of the formula, which leads to low motivation. First, the reward can't just be an idea in our head. The brain needs to experience it in order to increase our motivation. But with many of the creative goals we have, we really only get the benefit far off in the future after doing the action. So our brain doesn't really see or understand the reward of doing it, but it does see the massive pain required, which tanks our motivation. Also, the bigger and more ambitious our art goals are, the harder it feels to achieve it, since there's a bigger gap between where we are and where we want to go. So the likelihood of success decreases, and so too our motivation. Thankfully, we aren't doomed to having to lower our goals or give up on them to get unstuck and feel motivated. Instead, we just need to hack the motivation formula and change to the reward, pain, and success rate to work in our favor. We can do this through the 5 S's. The first S is simplify. So going back to when I was still in high school and had big dreams to draw manga and become really good at drawing, this was the state I was in. The gap between where I was and where I wanted to go was huge, which also made me feel like I had to make everything absolutely perfect before I could put it out there. This led me to constantly starting and abandoning works halfway through, and never being able to complete anything till the end because it just wasn't good enough. And so, if I could go back in time and coach my younger self, the first thing I would tell him to do would be to simplify. Because what you need isn't to lower your goals and dreams, but to build stairs that will help bridge the gap between where you are right now and where you want to go through small, doable steps. Here's how. First, open up a note-taking app on whatever device you're using, or get a paper and pen. Then write down exactly what your goal is, and based on it, figure out what is the minimum viable project, or MVP, that you can do. The MVP is the smallest, most bare minimum, easy to do project that lets you take one step towards your goal while still feeling meaningful. For example, if your goal is to become a good artist, your MVP may just be finishing 10 sketches or illustrations. For past me, who wanted to become a manga artist, my MVP was to submit a short manga to a contest. Breaking your goal down into an MVP helps to increase your success rate because it makes you focus on just taking the first step on the stairs towards your goal instead of trying to jump all the way to the top in one go. It also decreases the amount of pain you perceive because it feels smaller and easy enough to do that your brain doesn't panic. And it also increases the reward because you'll get to experience completing the MVP much sooner than having to achieve the entire goal. Finally, doing an MVP also allows you to quickly get feedback on how it actually feels to do the thing and what your next step should be. For example, back after I completed my first short manga, I found out that I actually wasn't very good at drawing, which led me to taking art courses and learning how to draw properly, which then led me to discovering illustration and going on the path that led to where I am today. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out when I make a new one. The second S is stakes. Our brain is wired to look for what's at stake in any given situation. This is most prominent in the stories that we love. For example, think about your favorite anime. It will always feature stakes that feel important to the characters, whether it's saving the world, getting the girl, or simply escaping everyday drudgery. Stakes create tension and capture our attention. We're constantly wondering whether the characters are going to succeed. If they do, the story has a happy ending. And if not, it's a tragedy. In this way, stakes help our brain understand that something matters, and when a story doesn't have them, we quickly lose interest. This is also why stories end quickly after the bad guy is defeated or the character achieves their goal, because there's no longer anything at stake. And if the story does continue, it always has to introduce new stakes to keep us interested. Similarly, in real life, we can also add stakes to our art goals and projects to boost our motivation. We can do so by first literally figuring out what's at stake for us. So I want you to think about and write down what's at stake if you don't achieve your art goals. Is it that you'll be filled with regret if you never try? That you won't get to see your ideas come to life? Or will you be stuck working at some other job, even though deep down you're called to be a creator? Next is to add stakes to taking action. One of the best ways to do this is to ask someone you trust and is supportive of you to help be your accountability partner. What this looks like exactly will depend on your goals or MVP, but to give an example, it could be you committing to draw every day, or creating one artwork every week, and then showing your partner proof that you did it. And if you don't do it, you agree to take on some sort of penalty, such as donating money to a charity that you don't like. By the way, make sure to offer to do the same for your partner too, if they have a goal they'd like to work on, so you both get to benefit from the relationship. Another way to add stakes is to tie your project to a contest or a competition, since it creates a hard deadline for you to get the work done by. The reason adding stakes works so well for motivation is because it actually increases the reward, since it allows us to avoid losing what's at stake if we don't do it. Our brain also just cares more about what we might lose than gain. For example, Daniel Kahneman, a psychologist that won the Nobel Prize, found that when people are offered a coin flip with a 50% chance to lose $20 and a 50% chance to win some money, most people will reject it unless the possible win is more than $40. In other words, losing feels so bad to us that winning the same amount isn't enough. The gain has to be at least twice or more before our brain feels like it's worth it. So using stakes and avoiding loss as a reward can actually be a better way to motivate you to take action than simply thinking about what you might stand to gain from it. The third S is skill. I want you to think about the games you like to play. Chances are, the ones you enjoy the most are the ones that you're pretty good at and you win some or most of the time. But what about a game where you basically hit a wall and lose every single time you play? Chances are, you're quickly going to stop playing that game. Similarly in art, if every time you draw, you get stuck at anatomy, perspective, or backgrounds, then drawing isn't going to feel very fun. This is because when you feel that you're bad at something and don't know how to improve at it, the pain feels very high and the success rate very low, so your motivation just drops. And instead, your brain will want to push you towards something easier, like scrolling through social media, playing games, or watching tutorials for 3 hours straight, and somehow count that as working on your art. But on the flip side, the better you get at drawing, the higher your success rate and the lower the pain. So your motivation naturally increases and it becomes more fun too. This is why improving your skills is another game-changing way to hack your motivation and make it easier to work on and achieve your goals. And if it's genuinely important to you, investing in guidance through a teacher or a course to help show you what to do, in what order, can be worth it because it'll make a massive difference in how quickly you improve, and thus your motivation too. For example, before I became an artist, I used to work as a Japanese teacher and tutor, and at one point I realized that getting a book or art course would actually save me way more hours in the long run by shortcutting the amount of time it would take me to get good, compared to the number of hours I'd have to work at my job to earn back the cost. I would essentially be trading a small amount of time for a much bigger amount of time, meaning it was a good time trade. So if you have the means to do so, investing in leveling up your skills can be one of the best things you can do to achieve your goals, particularly if you have a job you're working at, because your time is very limited. Now, if you do fall in that camp and are interested in leveling up your art skills, you might want to join the Anime Art Accelerator, which is the new course I just released. It's designed especially for beginner and intermediate artists who want to speed up their progress, and the premise is simple. It will help you learn and improve your anime art as fast as possible through concise lessons focused on the 20% that gets you 80% of the improvement, step-by-step quests that tell you exactly what to do next, and stylized references and cheat sheets so you don't waste time reinventing the wheel every time you draw. So far, more than 1,000 students have already enrolled, and I've received tons of positive comments about it from them, with many even going out of their way to message me about how much it's helped them. There's also a module in the course on how to master your motivation, which students absolutely loved, and I think you'll find it directly helpful for breaking out of the creative and ambitious, but struggling with motivation trap. I spent more than a year making the course the best I possibly could and condensed my 7+ years of experience and more than 12,000 hours of drawing into it. And as mentioned, I used to be a teacher before doing art professionally, and as much as I would love to teach you how to draw one-on-one in the same way, I simply don't have the time to. Which is why instead, I built the course to teach you exactly how I would if I were right by your side and provide you with all the instruction, practice methods, and resources you need to learn and improve your anime art in the fastest way possible. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you can find out more about the accelerator by clicking the link in the description. Moving on, the fourth S is setup. A lot of creative but lazy people get stuck because it's easier to fall for distractions like social media and games than it is to work on their art and projects. One of the reasons for this is that distractions are quick and easy to start and give you instant dopamine, compared to sitting down and struggling through a difficult drawing. But an even bigger reason is because we all underestimate the power our environment has on us. For example, in 2012, Google found that its employees had an M&M problem. They wanted them to make healthier food choices, so their team of behavioral scientists decided to change the environment. Instead of having the M&Ms in giant clear containers, they moved them into opaque ones where they would stand out less and look less appealing. Then they placed healthy snacks like dried fruits nearby in glass jars. This simple change alone led to the 2,000 employees in their New York office to consume 3.1 million less calories from M&Ms over 7 weeks. That's roughly 9 vending machine packs of M&Ms per person. Keep in mind that these employees were really bright people that were selected to work at Google, and they knew the whole time that there were healthier options they could choose from. But they didn't change until their environment did. Similarly with art, your setup has a big impact on the motivation you have to draw. So you want to intentionally design it so it's naturally hard to fall for distractions. For example, you can put games and social media on a separate account login on your computer, or use a separate device entirely. You can also put your phone in a different room while you draw. On the flip side, you also want to make drawing easier. This means always keeping your drawing tablet or sketchbook out instead of packed away, so you can pick it up anytime. And you can also have something in your bag that lets you sketch whenever you go out. Because the less friction there is to picking up the pencil and working on your art, the less pain there is and the more motivated you'll feel. The fifth S is stay. You need to practice staying the course even when things get hard and uncomfortable. Because every meaningful goal, every creative project comes with discomfort and uncertainty. Getting good at drawing includes repetition and tediousness. And too many people quit too early because they think boredom or frustration means there's something wrong with them or their work, and that they simply don't have the talent for it. But in reality, it's just a natural part of the process, and something anyone who gets good at their craft goes through. It's also really easy to worry what people might think of you and your art, and avoid putting your work out there because it doesn't feel good enough. But one of the most important things to realize as an artist is that your ability to tolerate discomfort is a skill that can and needs to be built up. The late psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl once stated that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. In other words, just because we feel uncomfortable or frustrated doesn't mean we need to immediately give in to our impulse to bail and seek comfort. We can pause, take a deep breath, and decide to respond in a way that leads to a better outcome and future for us. To keep on going, even when things get tough. And as we practice and get better at tolerating discomfort, the less problems we'll have with motivation because the pain feels lower. And our success rate increases because we build the confidence that we can handle whatever comes our way. Finally, you want to make sure that you're playing the game of art right, because we can actually take the same mechanics games use to make them fun and addictive and apply them to art instead, which makes staying the course much easier. And you can learn exactly how to do that in this video, where I show you how to make drawing so fun it feels like a video game. So make sure to check it out so you can max out your motivation and stop struggling with working on your art. This was Ori. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!